Hey, good afternoon to you. It's 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. This is the Fisher House Radiothon. I want to give a shout out to Steve from Potomac, who just made a big contribution, $1,500 to help the men and women of the military, their families, in their time of need, as the Fisher House helps them outside of these military hospitals, these veterans hospitals, helping them during their time of recovery. It's a really big deal, and you are such a great audience. Contribution is now rising to $206,472 today. WMAL listeners, the best in the world. The number 888-294-8560. 888-294-8560. The website, WMAL.com/Fisher House. Thank you. So President Biden, over the weekend, gave his son Hunter the most expansive pardon in American history. He said that he cannot be scrutinized and found guilty of the violation of any federal crime for the course of the last 11 years. And now we get this update from Politico, published a story yesterday, indicating that the Biden White House is in the midst of discussing a range of so-called preemptive pardons, yet again, for what they describe as those in Trump's crosshairs. And that includes people like Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, and Dr. Anthony Fauci. Blanket pardons. They don't describe why. They just say blanket pardons because Trump might target them? On what basis? What crime did Anthony Fauci commit that you think is deserving of a pardon? For more on this, Karol Markowicz joins us now. She's a columnist for the New York Post, the host of the Karol Markowicz Show, and the co-author of the book Stolen Youth: How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation. Karol, good to have you back with us.
Hi, Vince. So nice to be on with you.
Okay, so Anthony Fauci will get a sweeping pardon for what?
Well, that's interesting, right? Because what we got from the Hunter pardon is that he's clearly guilty of crimes that we don't know about. Why else would you do it for 11 years? Why would it be so expansive? But what would Anthony Fauci need a pardon for? And that would mean something really serious. It would mean a crime has been committed. It can't just be misleading the American public, which he absolutely did. It can't just be, politicizing the response to COVID, which he absolutely did. None of that makes sense as a pardon. So it has to be something really, really egregious for this to work. And I would love to know what that would be.
Yes. So to what extent has he benefited financially from all of this chaos? What did he lie to us about throughout the pandemic? What was the relationship to the Wuhan Institute of Virology? To what extent was he covering up for China? All of the vaccine and the work he did with the pharmaceutical companies. Karol, this seems like a target-rich environment for an enterprising federal investigation.
Right. That's exactly it. Like once you start pulling at that thread, you just can't, you don't know where it's going to end up. I was thinking about that he first said schools should open, and then he said schools can only open once Biden's spending bill passed. What was that change of heart about? Was it just political pressure, or was there more involved? And so because we don't know, I think the idea of this, preemptive blanket pardon is unserious. I can't see Biden actually going through with it. But the fact that he even floated it, I understand that the perspective is supposed to be like we're supposed to be afraid of Donald Trump, going after his political enemies and that kind of thing. But what he succeeded in doing here is opening the door and saying, it looks like Fauci may have committed some crimes that he would need that pardoning for. It's really, if I'm Anthony Fauci, I'm actually not at all happy about Biden floating this.
I'm not a lawyer, but I will raise this thing that's been in my mind. I'm not really certain that this is really a constitutional way to use the pardon power. I get it. Mm-hmm. Ford used it for Nixon this way. And since then, we've all sort of accepted it that you can pardon someone for something that hasn't actually been tried in court. And now he's done it with Hunter Biden. And now they want to do it with like a huge cast of characters that strikes me as fundamentally undemocratic, actually. And for the party that keeps crowing about threats to democracy, why are they creating special privileges for the people who are loyal to the regime.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think what the American people should demand at this point is a real investigation into what Fauci did during that time. Now, this has opened the door to that question of, should Trump investigate Fauci? Yes, he absolutely should. Should his White House really look into how Fauci benefited during that entire period of time? And really just to make sure that nothing like this happens again. We can't let public officials run our system the way Anthony Fauci did. He really had a little fiefdom going where he was able to implement policies on such a level that we had really not seen before. So if nothing else, I think that Donald Trump should go after Fauci and investigate him and find out what it is Biden wants to pardon him of, for us not to repeat this mistake again.
This is interesting. In the Politico piece, I feel like this is a sleeper element of the Politico piece, but I want to raise it with you, Karol Markowicz. They say that the West Wing deliberations about pardoning all of these people, Cheney, Schiff, Anthony Fauci, have been organized by the White House counsel, Ed Siskel, and include a range of other aides, including Chief of Staff Jeff Zients. The president himself, who is intensely focused on his own son's pardon, has not been brought into the broader pardon discussions yet, according to people familiar with the deliberations. Okay, that paragraph to me, Karol, reads like Biden isn't actually with it enough to even handle the maneuverings that they're doing here. And these are his puppet masters who are organizing who's going to get pardons next.
That's right. And look, it's been this way for a long time. Biden's been out to lunch for at least a year, if not more. And I think that we've known that it hasn't been him running the country. But to hear, to see that in Politico so blatantly, I think that is eye-opening. I also think that the addition of Schiff and Cheney are almost there to obscure the Fauci name, because what could they possibly be held, criminally just guilty of? So I don't know that those names necessarily mean anything. I think they were just added to kind of say, oh, it's just all people that Trump might oppose. But we really know that Anthony Fauci is the name on there that makes the most sense.
I know. And what's funny is it was yesterday morning, I was talking to Daily Caller colleagues, and we were just having this open conversation. Do you think he'll do it for other people besides Hunter? And of course, the family members came up, and then we started talking about Fauci. What if he does it for Fauci? Literally by that afternoon, I don't know, maybe they were listening in. I hope not. But Anthony Fauci, and it's not just, and maybe the idea in part at the Daily Caller was spurred on by the fact that you've got Obama bros who do this podcast. All these Obama veterans, and they've been openly advocating for that. They have been openly saying that the Biden people should pardon Fauci. Why are the Obama people so vested in that?
Right. I that's the other question, is who else would be involved in any kind of Fauci cover-up? It can't just be him. Somebody had to have, been involved on a number of levels. If he was paid for any things that he wasn't supposed to be paid for, somebody paid him. And if he was given political guidance that he wasn't supposed to act on, somebody gave that to him. All of that is, it would really amount to other people being involved in his crimes. Maybe that pardon list should be even longer than the Biden White House is currently floating.
Yeah, wow. It's just so wild. Thank you for covering it as always, Karol Markowicz. You make the world a better place.
Thank you so much,
over at the New York Post.
Thank
you very much. That's Karol. All right. Let's see here. I've got Sam calling in from Alexandria, line 1. Hello, Sam. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Oh, my gosh. As I was telling Corey, there's a term in the Army, the hawk is out tonight, and all my military brethren will know exactly what that means. It is cold, and it is windy. Whoa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been a mess. My recycling went out today, and it was all over the street. It was just a complete disaster, but don't remind me, Sam. Go ahead, Sam. What were you thinking?
Anyways, 2 comments. Number 1 is last time I looked, my understanding is only God can pardon us through Christ for sins we've committed, for sins that we have thought about, and even those that we have not even contemplated yet, but they are in our future. So that's kind of a problem for me when it comes to this pardon. And the other aspect is the constitutionality of it, is how can you a pardon to me seems like a very definitive thing. So how can you pardon something that you are not even aware of has occurred? And I would think that I would love to see some state AGs take it up to the Supreme Court and let's make a call on this thing.
Yeah, this is so. Like I said a moment ago to Karol, like Ford pardons Nixon and basically says he's completely pardoned, for everything during his presidency, whatever you want to possibly do. And the idea was that it would rescue the country from any sort of messy judicial battles ahead about the Nixon era, and we all sort of, I guess, the country. You accepted, right? Everyone was like, okay, I guess you could do that. And then, and since then, it's been like treated kind of as the gospel. Now, I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to pretend I do. It just seems like it violates sort of the spirit of what the founders probably intended for the pardon power, which is that you're accused of something, that you may even serve the time fully for it, and then somebody can come along and say that you've received a presidential pardon. But here we are. And Hunter Biden gets 11 years? That's absurd.
Well, that certainly stinks because it's so definitive. You have to think, well, as we all know, give me a break. Wonder why 11 and not 11 and a half or 12?
I know.
That kind of a thing. And we know what their answer is, but on the other side of that is this has never been challenged. I think the Supreme Court needs to weigh in on it, and there's no if they want to pull that thread, I say let's go for it, going all the way back to Nixon and say, was that unconstitutional for all across the board, whatever you may have done, don't care about whether it was for the good of the country.
Yeah.
We need to see what the constitutionality of it is, because that's what we stand on.
Well, you can also see what's happening, too. They're establishing new precedent. I mean, how far are we from entire administrations pardoning their entire political appointees? All of them. Everyone gets a pardon on the way out the door just in case, so that the other party can't prosecute them. That's not where you want to be. The country's in chaos at that point. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Sam. Appreciate that call, brother.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, the Fisher House Radiothon continues. Thank you, Sam, as always, especially for your service today. As we honor the Fisher House, we'll do some more of that coming up. The Fisher House Radiothon continues here on WMAL. Our thanks to Jeff in Alexandria, who just made a big old $2,500 contribution to the Fisher House. God bless you, Jeff. Thank you for that. That's a big deal, very big deal. You can be like Jeff. The number 888-294-8560, WMAL.com/Fisher House. That's the internet way to handle things. Joining us now is a woman called Felicia Perez Kausin. She joins us on the phone. Felicia, good to have you with us.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here.
So,
I just landed in my hotel because I was traveling for my birthday weekend. I left the Fisher House in the good hands of my husband and my daughter.
you just left the Fisher House.
I just left the Fisher House. Yes, I'm there for about 6 more weeks because I'm with my father, who's a World War II veteran. He's 104 years old, David Perez.
Holy cow. 104-year-old World War II veteran. That's amazing. You live with an amazing person.
Oh, boy.
So tell me about your dad.
Oh, he's phenomenal. So we got there on September 26th of 23 to Fisher House, and I didn't have anywhere to stay.
Wow.
I stayed at Defender's Lodge the first night, and they didn't have any room at the inn, and so I was a little bit nervous about where I was going to be. And the Fisher House, Tracy and her crew, Marlene, they were wonderful to say, come on down. And the rest literally is history, as they say. I've been there for a little over a year now, off and on, for a little over a year at the Fisher House in Palo Alto, California.
At Palo
It's been
Alto.
phenomenal.
Wow, a little over a year. So your dad is how's he doing?
Oh, he's doing very well. For 104, he had hip surgery, but he is one tough bird. He was Army. He's an Army guy, combat medic in the Army, and we live in Monterey County is where we're from. So that's why we stay there, because it's a little difficult to drive back and forth to the VA facilities.
Yes.
He's currently in Menlo Park doing his thing, and so he does rehab. He's doing rehab right now for balance, strength, and this trip, unfortunately, he has a rotator cuff tear. So
I don't know. If I was 104 years old, I'm not sure I'd be like in the rehab mentality. I'd be like, everything's falling apart. Your dad's still going strong at 104. That's unbelievable. So I'm seeing here in my notes that not only is he a World War II veteran, but specifically he served as a combat veteran in Saipan and Okinawa, and he earned He earned, the military members in our audience will appreciate this, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor designation.
Yeah, no, he got 2 Bronze Stars. He was, again, combat medic for heroic saving of some of his comrades that were there, his guys that were there, he was his fellow soldiers. And it was just an unbelievable, thing that he did, during that time. I mean, he's been, and he's carried that through his whole life. I mean, my mom had him for 62 years, and he's a tough old bird, I'll tell you.
That sounds like
he got taken out. He got taken out, twice. Saipan, an ordnance blew up, and gave him a little shake of the head, and then in Okinawa, unfortunately, that was the one that kind of took him out. And he was in a coma for 5 days before he came. Yeah. So he is unbelievable.
So what
he carries that to this day. I mean, he's tough.
What does he think of the Fisher House?
Oh, he loved it. I'll tell you. So the story, goes. So again, like I said, we got there on the 26th. He was really concerned about where I was going to be. And so when he was in a room there at the hospital there in Palo Alto, and his room faced the Fisher House. And so I would show him, I said, Dad, see that big house over there? Because there's 2 of them. I said, I'm staying in that house right there. And I would show him, and he goes, really? And I go, yes. I go, it is phenomenal. I said, I have my own room. I have my own bathroom. I said, and I love it because I get to cook for everybody. And so his mind was just very, he was so happy. Amazing. That I had a place to stay, and it was warm and safe, and it just eased his mind, and he was able to just worry about himself and care for himself. And it's just been an unbelievable experience.
Felicia, I am so grateful for your story today. I'm very grateful for your father, 104-year-old World War II veteran, hero, fought in the Pacific, just amazing. Please give him our regards. Tell him the biggest, best radio station in Washington, D.C. is thinking about him, and so grateful for his service.
Yes, and they need to give to the Fisher House, please. Everybody in California needs to donate, and across the country, so
Thank
please
you.
do.
Thank you, Felicia, very much. What a nice call. Okay, the Fisher House, you can support them, 888-294-8560, 888-294-8560. WMAL.com/Fisher House. We're helping out World War II veterans and their families. Just jotting down my notes here. I've got so many great WMAL listeners making contributions to the Fisher House right now. I got Doreen from Arlington who just donated $1,000 to support the Fisher House. Doreen, thank you so much for doing that. It's such a huge deal. You can be like Doreen. Call 888-294-8560, 888-294-8560. Through the years, there have been so many millions of dollars raised through the relationship between WMAL and the Fisher House. $8.7 million over the past 21 years. What a great relationship we've had with the Fisher House. So cool to support them, and so grateful to you for your help in that effort. 888-294-8560, WMAL.com/Fisher House. Our grand total, as of right now, $214,670 raised here just today by the WMAL audience. Okay, so cool. So wonderful. One of the big political stories of the day, of course, that we're concentrating on is the defense secretary nominee. That's Pete Hegseth. And Cameron is calling in from Northern Virginia and wants to weigh in on this. Line 1. Cameron, you are on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Vince, good to be on your show, brother. I love your show. Don't tell Larry O'Connor. You might be my favorite. It probably would devastate him, but either way, thank you for having me.
When you say, since you said that, I'm going to have to clip this and send it to him. I'll just keep sending it over and over. Thank you, Cameron. I appreciate that.
Go
ahead.
So, Vince, I'm a former congressional candidate. I actually ran for Virginia 7 here and unfortunately did not prevail in my primary, but I'm also a combat veteran and former Navy SEAL. And Pete has been a strong advocate for the Navy SEAL community, especially the Navy SEAL Foundation. I actually just recently did the Navy SEAL swim in New York. That's organized by Bill Brown. Pete's come several times. Again, we swim him across the harbor. I'm one of about 100 veterans that are going to be coming to support Pete at his confirmation hearing, what I hope to be a very, very flavorful but a relatively simple day where I'm hoping that he'll be confirmed as the next Secretary of Defense.
Confirmation.
But really, we're going to go there and we're going to show some support and love to Pete.
Okay,
he's been remarkable.
Cameron, is this? So I've seen some reports today that there are something like 100 Navy SEALs who are committed to marching on Washington. Will Cain posted this today, marching on Washington, D.C. in support of Pete Hegseth. Are you a part of that operation, Cameron?
I absolutely am. Again, that was organized by Bill Brown. He's a remarkable guy, combat veteran himself. But, yeah, we've got 100 Navy SEALs and then a bunch more veterans from all over that are going to be supporting this movement. Really remarkable because, again, we want to show love to the man that's helped promote the Navy SEAL Foundation, the Navy SEAL community. He's been an advocate for, at Concerned Veterans for America and many other groups. So
yeah,
it's really our honor to shower him with his praise.
Cameron, as you look at, and obviously this gets to your support for him, as you look at Pete Hegseth, what do you think distinguishes him from, say, the typical establishment pick for SecDef?
I think there's a lot of remarkable service members that have stepped into that role. I think with Pete, he brings a very unique perspective because he shares Donald Trump's concerns about this hyper-militarization or hyper-politicization of the military. Pete has been very clear about some of the endemic problems that we've been facing, and I think he hasn't been in the military long enough at positions of leadership that are so high to where his mindset has almost been corrupted. And so I think he brings a fresh set of eyes. I also think it's very clear and compelling to hire people from industry who've had to go and work on their own 2 cents in a different capacity. Pete has a very remarkable resume, and I think, again, his focus on the combat lethality and removing politics from the armed forces are absolutely paramount and essential. It's what's sorely needed. So I think he's going to make a remarkable Secretary of Defense. This is not in any way a slight on other individuals who, perhaps may have climbed the ranks, become generals, become admirals. I know there's several different names that have been thrown out there, one of which even Congressman Mike Waltz was being considered for a while as the potential Secretary of Defense before he was selected by Trump to become his national security advisor. I got really, really remarkable individuals with prestigious careers. Pete just brings a fresh set of eyes. I think it's healthy, it's dynamic, he's an alpha male, and I think he wants to focus our military on being lethal and nothing else, and I think that's exactly what is needed.
And it's not, when I look at Pete Hegseth and I listen to what he's done, and I talk to people like yourself, Cameron, or if I talk to people like my father's a retired Marine general, and I get their assessments of, what do you think of this guy? They're impressed. And they're not just impressed that he's saying some of the right things. They're impressed that he's saying a lot of the right things, that he's done the homework. He knows this really well. He's been in service. He knows what it's like in combat. And then he also knows at the bigger level, that 10,000-foot level, what kind of changes need to be made at a system-wide level to get the military headed in the right direction. Is that right?
You're absolutely right. And not only that, Pete's also been very outspoken about the 8,500 service members that were kicked out of the military because of the COVID nonsense. He's been very outspoken and vocal about how these people's constitutional rights have been violated by our government. And so I think you're incredibly correct. Pete is also, in addition to his service, he graduated from Harvard. I mean, he's not educated man.
And Princeton.
He's gone to
he's done both.
Exactly. He's gone to prestigious schools.
Yeah.
And he's met their gateways. And I think, unfortunately, the political left and really a lot of moderate Republicans are going to really come after him. And look, I understand reservations about the fact that, he wasn't a general. He wasn't even a full-bird colonel. I get that. But that is not the prerequisite or gateway to become a secretary during a time of war.
No. I mean, right now, Lloyd Austin was a general, but he also was a defense contractor. It's much more unseemly to slip from that industry into the Department of Defense than Pete Hegseth arriving with some very clear ideas on how to fix things. Boy. All right. Hey, Cameron, I really appreciate that. As you get closer, I hope this whole thing prevails because I want to see you march on Washington. I can't wait to see it, and I hope a lot of veterans join you. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me, Vince.
That's Cameron calling in from Northern Virginia, Navy SEAL. Says he's marching with over 100 Navy SEALs and many other veterans on Washington as that confirmation hearing gets underway for Pete Hegseth. Remarkable. Let's see. Connor is calling in from Huntsville, Alabama, line 2. Connor, good afternoon, sir. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I found it interesting that Senator Ernst would talk about enlistment rates,
Mm-hmm.
and I really don't know if she's done a deep dive analysis into what's caused those rates to drop. Open-ended wars, woke ideology, transgenderism in the military aren't real big selling points. I wouldn't think. But I tell you, when I was a civilian for a DoD organization, and I deployed to Iraq 2007, 2010, and we had a lot of armed forces television.
Right.
And they had this commercial where different branches of the military doing their thing.
Yes.
And they had the catchphrase, something like projecting overwhelming force around the globe. And shortly after Obama was inaugurated, those commercials disappeared. So I really don't think that the liberals like the fact that America is the number one superpower, or should be the number one superpower.
Yeah, no, you're right. Actually, that's actually a great metric to watch how the military has changed. The recruitment strategy. Have you noticed the messaging through the years? It softened up a lot. It became, you could you could tell it was a vibe shift towards like, oh, look at this humanitarian project that the military is helping with. And that's true. The military does great humanitarian work. But the recruitment stuff that always appealed to, I don't know, us when we were kids, you saw just guys like going in warriors. Remember the Marine Corps? They had a full-blown ad campaign where they had a Marine just slaying dragons. The whole concept was like they just handed him a sword, there's a dragon breathing fire, and he's killing dragons. It was like, it's not even something that happens in combat. But the whole concept was like, you're going to go in there and you're going to be a warrior. You're going to destroy the enemy. And, boy, we've had a vibe shift on that, haven't we, Connor?
We have. And the bottom line is I don't use the term moderate Republican. I think you're either a liberal or you're a conservative. And Senator Ernst is a liberal. And liberal policies never work because liberals don't understand human nature.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't understand that people will always act in their best interest based on their moral upbringing and their value systems. And the average American who would be military age is not going to support an organization that's as dysfunctional as our military has become.
Yeah, and you can see it in legacy recruitment. That's a big area where basically current members of the military are saying to their kids, you know what, go do something else for now. And it's having a real impact on recruitment because that means that the guys who know what it's like are concerned about seeing their own kids move on into the military. That's a big deal. It's always been a big deal, legacy admins. Hey, Connor, thank you very much. I appreciate that call. Very, very insightful. Let me take a quick one here from Fred in Mount Airy on line 3. He wants to call in about the Fisher House today. Hello, Fred. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
How you doing? I'm glad to be talking with you. Saturday morning in Etchison, Maryland, at the church, we're doing a good old-fashioned country breakfast, and all donations are going to go to Fisher House. And no charge, whatever you want to donate, come out, and it'll be given to Fisher House.
Well, that's what's the name of the church?
It's just the church in Etchison, Maryland. It's right at Hipsley Mill and Route 108.
And that's on Saturday at what time?
Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Well, that's fantastic news. Fred, thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
And what's really befitting is the 7th is Pearl Harbor Day.
Yes, it is. That's exactly right. That's a good reminder, Fred. Thank you very much. I always got to keep my head on a swivel for those dates, but that's an important one, December 7th. Thank you very much,
and
Fred.
If you can bring the wife and kids, we'd be glad to have you.
That's so cool. I love it. Thank you, Fred.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. The Fisher House Radiothon continues. Our thanks to Tom from Woodbridge, who has contributed 10,000 Delta miles. That's right. They've got their their Hero Miles program at the Fisher House. So if you've got some spare airline miles you'd like to contribute, you can fly some military families to the Fisher House to be with their loved ones. Thank you to Tom for that. And Mike from Culpeper just made a contribution of $2,000 to the Fisher House. God bless you, Mike. What a really nice gesture. That's going to go a very long way, and it's going to do a lot of good for members of the military and their families. Again, the number 888-294-8560, WMAL.com/Fisher House. Joining us now is Toni Gross. Toni, we've spoken to before, and we're grateful to have her back here on WMAL. Toni, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me on. I am down here in sunny Florida, and there's alligators swimming by in our pond behind my house as we speak.
Right now, you're
rather
staring
have alligators than snow.
That's how much you dislike snow. You'd rather have alligators. Well, that says a lot. Well, I'm glad it's sunny down there in Florida. Toni, it is nice to speak with you again. But I just want to remind people of your story. You have a son who was killed in action in Afghanistan. Tell us about your boy.
United States Corporal Frank R. Gross was killed in Afghanistan July the 16th, of 2011. And as a result of his death, that's how we became familiar with the Fisher House. We flew to Dover Air Force Base, and we stayed at this gorgeous, gorgeous mansion at Dover. And my family and I stayed there while awaiting Frank's casket to come back from Afghanistan. And we were blessed to stay there. And fast forward to now, 11 years now, I have been a volunteer at the Fisher House here at James Haley. And I have found that as I serve, I am carrying on the memory of my son. But each and every Wednesday night, I volunteer to serve meals to the families staying at the Fisher House. And the motto of the Fisher House here at James Haley is "A family's love is good medicine." And I have found that it is good medicine for me because I have found joy in volunteering. I am blessed and encouraged, and it helps me through my grief journey and the loss of my only son. And like you said, he was killed in Afghanistan in 2011. And volunteering at the Fisher House for 11 years now is just a happy place for me. I don't tell the families that I lost my son. I am there to serve them, and I carry on his legacy and his memory as I do that. And like I said, it's just been a joy for me to be able to do that here at James Haley VA Hospital in sunny Tampa, Florida. And it's just a blessing to be on this station again, doing this for my Fisher House.
Oh, my goodness. Toni Gross, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so nice to talk to you again. And thank you again for your son's sacrifice for this country. You're a good person. And it shot. You are like all the Fisher House people, just angels on earth. Thank you, Toni.
Thanks, Vince. Bye-bye.
So nice to talk to you. That's Toni Gross. And by that Dover Air Force Base, Fisher House, they have a haunting and unique mission, and you can support it. 888-294-8560, 888-294-8560, WMAL.com/Fisher House. We're going to do this tomorrow, too. You can join me. I'll be at the Fair Oaks Mall, this broadcast live 3 to 6 as the Fisher House Radiothon continues on WMAL.